Greetings gastronauts, this is KeefCooks, I'm Keef, and today it's the middle of January, deepest, darkest winter. We had one storm yesterday, that was Isha, we've got another one today, that's Jocelyn, and it's not nice, it's cold, it's horrible. So what you need in these circumstances is a proper winter warmer, and that means best ever beef stew with dumplings. Best ever stew was requested by Jan Hume, and so I googled it, and what comes up is Julia Child, the American cooking guru, who means pretty much not a lot to most Brits, because we had Fanny Craddock, oh yeah. Anyway, I looked at Julia's recipe, and my goodness, 3 days, because she marinates the beef overnight in wine, which is quite unusual, and I'm not doing that. And then she cooks it a bit and lets it sit, and then cooks it a bit more, and then you can eat it. And that's fine, because stuff like stews is always better the next day. So I'm skipping, well, I'm not actually doing her recipe, I'm doing my classic beef stew recipe, but instead of using beer, I'm going to use wine. And it will be wonderful. It was about 5 years ago since I last made a video of beef stew and dumplings, so it's well due for a remake. If you enjoy this video, give it a like, share, subscribe, etc. And let's go on with it. Best ever beef stew with dumplings. First thing to do is start cooking the beef. I've got 500 grams of braising steak, which in the UK would be skirt or chuck or something else. It's tough old stuff, but you'll see it's got, you know, lots of marbling of fat, and it's got collagen, and it's wonderful. But it does take a long time to cook it. This will take about 3.5 hours in the stew. So, you know, that's why I need to get going. Cut it into sort of bite-sized chunks. We'll keep that fat in, because fat is flavour, as you know. Now I want to coat those in seasoned flour, so we get a couple of spoons of plain all-purpose flour, some salt, and some ground black pepper. Mix those together, and then toss the beef in it, and get all the chunks coated. So the reason we do this is to create a bit of umami on the outside, because we're going to sear it before we stew it, and you know, get it kind of crunchy, and that creates some Maillard reactions. Oh yes. And also it will help the gravy thicken up as it cooks. I say gravy, I mean the sauce, you know, the stuff that it's actually cooked in. I'm going to do this in 2 batches because you don't want to overcrowd the pan. The first stage of cooking the beef is to melt some beef dripping, tallow, or lard, or oil. And when that's smoking, add the beef and stir them now and again to get them sort of browned and crispy all over. Then take those out and add the second batch. Right, for the next stage, I've got medium onion, a stick of celery, and a smallish carrot, and also about a litre of beef stock and half a bottle of cheap wine. Not too cheap, something that you wouldn't mind drinking, but you don't need to go crazy on it. Because we don't live in Bordeaux, where a litre of wine might have cost you a couple of euros. So peel your onion and finely dice it. And the same with the celery. And the carrot. Now to start cooking the stew, I've got the fat from when we cooked the beef that's still hot, so I'll add the onion, celery and carrot and just let those sweat gently for about 5-10 minutes. Then we'll add the meat, the stock, the wine, and 2 or 3 bay leaves, and bring that to the boil, and then turn it down to a simmer with a lid on for a couple of hours, and then we'll have a look at it. In fact, at this point you've got 3 options. You could continue doing it this way on the stovetop, and that will take 3 to 3.5 hours in total, or you could speed it up by doing it in a pressure cooker, in which case it will take 20 to 30 minutes, or you could do it in a slow cooker, in which case it'll probably take about 8 hours. So it's up to you, depending on how much time you've got. So I'll see you in a couple of hours and we'll do some other things then before we finish it off. Okay, the stew has had 2 hours, so I'm going to add some extra vegetables now. I don't put these in at the start because they just disintegrate and turn to mush. And we don't want that. So I've got a little carrot, which I'll chop into kind of bite-sized chunks. Got half a leek that you might recognise from last week's leek and potato pie. So I'll just slice that. Got half a dozen chestnut mushrooms, I'll keep those whole. And some baby potatoes. They're quite big as baby potatoes go. So I'll just cut off the nasty bits and chop them into manageable chunks. And here's the stew. It's coming on really well, and I've fished out the bay leaves and now I'll add those vegetables and let those simmer for about an hour. Okay, that pot is looking a bit full. I've added a bit more liquid and I am slightly worried about how we're going to fit the dumplings in, but that's down the road 1 hour away, so the vegetables might shrink down a bit. We'll see. Okay, time to finish it off. So got a small handful of parsley, chopperoo. So I'm going to make the dumplings. I've got 100 grams of self-raising flour, 50 grams of suet. Many people can't get this. What you can use as a substitute is to freeze some butter and grate it and toss it in flour, and that kind of works. A pinch of salt. So mix the salt in with the flour and the suet. Then we'll have some parsley as well, just to give it some colour, a bit of flavour. And then enough cold water to make it come together. Tiny bit more. And then divide it into little balls, or big ones if that's what you prefer. I'll stir a bit of that fresh parsley into the stew and reserve some of it for garnish. And then we pop the dumplings in. And they'll take about 20-25 minutes to cook. So just put the lid on and keep it simmering as low as you can. Space them out as much as you can because they will expand. If you like a crunchy dumpling, you can halfway through put it in the oven under the grill, the broiler, and then you'll get a crunchy top. Take the lid off the pot, obviously. Okay, time's up. Let's see. Oh yeah. If we had smell-o-vision, Microsoft Smell extensions, you'd be drooling. This is fantastic. Well, right on cue, it's raining, it's windy, it's horrible. And here's my dinner. Beef stew with dumplings. Best ever stew. That beef is definitely cooked. Falling to bits. Fantastic. Let's have a bit of dumpling. That works. Bit of carrot. A mushroom. Okay, I'm gonna go now. That really is best ever stew. It's fantastic. So make it. Alright, thanks for watching. See you next time.